Okay, so in this first example, we're going to see how we can use Dropbox to share our code with all the artists working in the same pipeline. So what we're going to do in this example is use two different computers. So in this one, we're going to pretend that this is our TD computer, that the one generating all the code and pushing it to Dropbox. And here we're going to pretend that that's one artist computer that is reading from Dropbox. So as the TD will update the code, everything is going to be updated directly in Dropbox. So in this TD computer, we're also going to use Mercurial to, of course, track all the code and also specify which change set Dropbox need to be using in production. So this is going to be the kind of the simplest setup that you can use. In the second example, we're going to see a much more versatile and complex setup where we can use the Python library of Mercurial to update to a specific change set. But let's just see this one, which I think would be more than enough in most of the case of maybe a small studio that just need to track the code, but doesn't have a very complex setup to use in production. So let's open a file browser. So what we're going to do is in this TD computer is build all the code in our nuke folder of this computer, and then we'll clone our repo to a folder in Dropbox that is shared among all the users. So inside my Dropbox, I've made an fxphd folder that is also in all the Dropbox of the other users. So if I go in the artist computer, go in the Dropbox here, there's also this fxphd folder. So just to show you, if I just make an empty text file and go back to the TD computer, you see that the same text file has been added. So we'll use Dropbox and synchronization like that to share all the repo. So let's go in PyCharm. So in my nuke folder of the TD computer, we'll just make a new folder. So I'll call this one Python. So that's where I'll be putting all the share code that will push in Dropbox. And actually I didn't, it's not a file, we'll need to make a new folder. So new directory, Python. So I'll just delete this one. So delete. Okay. And what I want to make is just a simple init file like that. And from this init file, I just want to add the Python folder as a Python path. So import nuke and then nuke.plugin add path, and we'll add our Python folder. So just to test that everything is working inside our main Python folder, we'll make the init.py, the one that will be shared with all the user, and we'll also make our menu.py. And just to test that we've added the path correctly, we'll just do a quick nuke message to test our plugin path. So nuke message working. So now if we start nuke, we should have our message that we just added in this menu.py. So just open nuke. And there we have our message. So the path is working well. So we just close nuke for now. And we'll just remove that for now since we know it's working. So we just start our repo. So in going in my nuke folder, we'll create a new repo that will then clone inside Dropbox. So turtleshg, create repo here. And Actually, we'll make it from the Python folder. So inside Python, we'll create it here. Create. There you have it. And we'll do our first commit. So we'll just specify that we want to add our to file. And we'll just also, for now, just specify that we don't want to track the in-your file. So we'll just in-your this for now, add and close. And we'll just commit those two files. So first commit, click on commit, and there you have it. So now the next step is to clone our local repo to our Dropbox folder. So we'll close this for now. Going here where we have our repo, we'll right click Tortoise HG, and we want to clone the repo. So we'll clone from our home folder, Python home folder, and we'll specify the Dropbox folder. So clicking on our fxphd here, let's make a new folder where we will put our repo. So folder, and let's call that repo. Enter here, select folder, and clone. So there you have it. So we've cloned our repo. So now that we've cloned it, let's maybe add some more code to it. So let's find some tool that maybe we want to install. So here I have downloaded a few tools that we can install. So let's just install the Victor tools first. So we'll double click here and we'll just copy this. We'll go in our Python here, and let's make let's actually just paste it here. So we have our vtools, and we'll just use the code that we need to put in the init and menu.py. So we'll just open this and steal the code. So we'll just copy this line. So that needs to be in init.py. So just go here in our Python folder, init.py. So we'll just import nuke and paste the plugin add path. And we'll do the same thing for the menu.py. So edit, and I'll just copy all of this, copy, and inside the menu.py, we'll just paste that. So going back again in our nuke repo, we'll reopen Tortoise HG. And then if we go in our working directory, we should have all those files that needs to be added. So we'll just click on here, select them all, click add, and then we'll just click here to check all the file like that. So let's commit this once again. So added Victor's tools, and then we'll commit that as well. So we've our change set. So now let's say that we're ready to share this in production with all the other users in Dropbox. So since everything now is only in our local repo, we need to push that to the Dropbox, because if we go in our Dropbox and open Tortoise HG, so here, so that's local and that's on the network. So you see that our latest change set hasn't been pushed yet to Dropbox. So we'll go here and we need to push that to our outgoing repo in Dropbox. So we'll push that. So now we need to specify the path that we want to push to. So for the first time, when you're doing that for the first time, you need to specify the remote path. So we'll click on OK, and here we'll click on Browse, and we'll go in our fxphd folder, repo, and select the folder, and we'll save this. Click Save. So now, if we just go back here and push, we're pushing to Dropbox. So now in our repo here in Dropbox, you see that the change set has been pushed, but nothing has been updated yet. So now let's go on the artist's computer to modify the code so that they can start to work with what we're pushing in Dropbox. So here we are in the artist's computer. So let's go in the nuke folder of this computer. And right now we don't have anything. So basically what the only thing that the artists need right now is an init.py file that will link to the repo inside our Dropbox. So let's say that this artist is a complete newbie with Python and he doesn't know how to handle Python file. So let's provide him with a default file that all the artists could use as a template. So we'll just go back in fxphd and let's make a new folder. Let's call that various. And let's make a template that all the artists could start with and just replace a default value. So we'll just make a new Python file. So init.py like that. Yes. And we'll just edit it really fast. So the only thing that this init.py file will need is the import nuke statement and add a plugin path to Dropbox. So since this is going to change from artist to artist, since their Dropbox is probably in a different location from computer to computer, we'll need to put a placeholder that the artist will need to replace depending of their Dropbox location. So we'll put new.plugin add path, that, put a string, just make sure to be a raw string since we want it to handle the backslash correctly. So insert Dropbox repo path here. So just save that. And then the only thing that you need to tell your artist is to copy this file and their nuke on folder and replace this with the location of Dropbox. So we'll save this, close this. Now if we go on the artist computer, we'll go in their Dropbox. So fxphd, the various folder as sync. So you've told them to copy this in their own nuke folder. So we'll copy this file here, paste it, and then they just need to replace the repo path depending of their Dropbox location. So let's get in the Dropbox folder and go in the repo, copy the full path, and then the only thing they need to do is replace this, paste, and save. So now if we close this file and start nuke, so nuke open. So we see now that we don't have the added tool that we've added in the other computer. And if we close nuke and go in the Dropbox folder, so this one here, we see that we don't see any Victor tool that we added on the other computer. And if we go back to the other computer, that's because if we take a look at the repo inside Dropbox, we've updated it to the first commit, which was just the blank init and menu.py. So now if we decide that everything we've added is ready for production, basically what we need to do is just update the remote repo to this change set. So we'll just right click, update, and click on update. So now if we go back to the other computer, we'll see that Dropbox should be syncing this file on the other computer. So we just give Dropbox a few seconds to sync everything. So now if we start Nuke once again, we should have access to those Victor tool that we just added and change the change set inside Dropbox. So Nuke just open, as you can see now, we have access to all those gizmo that we've updated inside Dropbox. So now if we just go back in our pipeline computer, so now we could start to add some code once again. So let's say now that we want to install a new gizmo, so we'll just close that. Go here where I have other gizmos. So let's say now we want to add this. So we'll just copy that inside our Python folder in our home computer. So we'll just paste this. Then we'll just steal the line that we need to paste in our init.py. So for the init, we'll just copy this line, close the file, go in our init, add this one as well. Then we'll do the same thing for the menu.py. Here, close that. In menu, we'll just add this as well. So let's just test on this computer if everything is working before pushing everything. So just open Nuke. So here we are. So now we see that we have also those gizmo working. So let's push that and commit that to our repo. So we'll close Nuke, go in our home Python, open territories, just refresh everything, go back in the commit view, so refresh. So we'll add everything, so we'll just click everything, we'll add, so just need to select everything like that, shift click, add, and then I'll select everything, check everything, and then added pixel fudger and commit. Then I'll push that to the Dropbox folder. But since I'm not manually updating, because if I go here in the repo, you see that the push has happened, but the repo is still on the previous change set. So unless I go here and update everything, all the artists will still be working on this change set here. So let's say that I don't want to push that yet in production, and I continue to add some code. So I'll just make, let's say I'm developing some tool, but I'm adding something that is not valid and will throw an error. So I'll just commit that. So going back in our home folder, working directory, reload. So we have this change here. So let's say new tool dev. We'll commit that. And now I'm going to update to this revision. So I'm just going to first push it. Going here, I'll update. Okay, so we've got this error here that tells us that there's a problem with some untracked file. So in this case, some PYC file. And that's happening because we haven't told Mercurial to inure everything that is PYC. And since PYC are going to differ from system to system, since everything is run currently inside the Dropbox folder here inside the repo. So if we go here, we see that we have some PYC files. So since this PYC was run on another computer, it will differ from systems to systems. So now, since I'm trying to push some file and telling Mercurial to update some file that are different, it's throwing an error that it doesn't know what to do with those untracked file. So how can we fix this error? So the first thing I should have done is, when creating the repo, is tell Mercurial to just ignore everything that is PYC. So that would avoid this kind of error. So let's try to fix that real quick. So we'll just close that and close this. So now if we go in the Dropbox folder here, and let's put everything in file type. So let's find those PYC. So here you have it. So for now, I'm just going to delete them. So now, of course, if I go back here and update, now everything should be working because those files are not there anymore. So just update. And you see that since they were not there anymore, there was no conflict. But once again, you see that since I've updated, they are back here in the repo. So let's tell Mercurial to not take care of PYC so that it won't have some conflict when updating some file. So let's go in our repo here and let's edit the in-your filter. So just edit the in-your filter by selecting the option. So let's put star.pyc and add. So we'll click yes and close this. And we'll do the same thing in our home here. So we'll just go in our .nuke folder in the Python, edit the in-your filter, and we'll add the PYC extension as well. So we'll click add and close. So the thing I should have done at first is, when creating the repo in my home in-your filter, I should have just add PYC file, and then once it would have been cloned to the Dropbox folder, the Dropbox repo would also in-your everything that is related to PYC. So that would also have solved us a lot of headache. But now, by just deleting those files and adding both the in-your filter and both repo, we should be good to go. So getting back to our what we were trying to do is, now I've updated the repo with an error in our menu.py file. So now if we go back to the artist computer and start nuke, we should have a problem because there was an error in the code. So we'll just start nuke and let's see what's going to happen. So we see now that we have this error happening because of what we've put in the menu.py. So now the only thing that we need to do to revert back to a working states, and now you just tell the people that is taking care of your code that there is an error, and since they've tracked everything, it's really fast now to go back to a working state where everything will be working and they'll have time to fix everything. And when we fixed it, just need to put another change set. So now we click on OK. Going back in the TD computer, they know that their error is here, so you just need to update back to a previous change set, update. And now if we go back to the artist computer, if they start nuke once again, everything should be working in the state that there was no error. So we still have the same error. So let's just go back in the IT on the pipeline computer. So, that's because what I've updated is my local repo, but what we needed to update is, the one on the Dropbox, because everything is still at the latest change set. So make sure to select the Dropbox repo. So we want to get back to this state here before we've put the error, so we'll just update. So we're back to our state here. So now if we go here, now we should be all good. So here we are. So now we see that we've updated with the latest gizmo. We had it, but now we don't have the error anymore. So now the only thing that we would have to do is go in our new folder here where we've introduced the error. So we'll just update to our working directory. So to this here, update to new dev, update everything. So going back in our PyCharm, we'll just fix this. And that's where you would commit the fix. So refresh, fix it, error, commit, push to Dropbox, and then you would update to the fixed error, update everything, update, discard everything. And now if we restart Nuke, like that, then we should be at the latest change set without any error. And there you have it. So you see how easily you can use Dropbox to share tools between multiple users. So now I'm just doing it with a single artist, but you could have 10 or 20 artists linked to the same Dropbox, and it could be all sourcings from the same repo. And as the tools are ready to production, you just need to update it on the Dropbox repo so that they're all using the same code. So yeah, of course, just make sure to, when you're starting your repo, if you want to avoid the kind of error I just had, make sure to edit the in-your filter here, and make sure to add the PYC file, because since multiple computers are going to generate the PYC file in the Dropbox folder, this is going to generate some conflict on the Mercurial repo. So just make sure to in-your everything so that Mercurial will not try to handle all the different versions of the PYC file that will be generated inside the repo.